You always knew there was something unique about you. The way you viewed the world, the way the parts fit together in ways others couldn't understand. It was not a coincidence. They ignored your visions and attempted to persuade you that your knowledge was nothing more than fantasy. Deep down, you never wavered. You felt it. The shift, the pull, the quiet hum of something larger directing you. They attempted to quiet you, drowning out the clear truth with laughter and doubt. But the tide has shifted. The exact things they insulted you for are now playing out before their eyes. And now they desire you, not with scorn, but with confusion, curiosity, and the unsettling awareness that you could have been right all along. This is not the time to pull back. Now is not the time to second-guess yourself. You were never intended to blend in. You were destined to lead. The world is moving, and people in power are aware of it. They've always known it. That is why they dreaded you. That's why they tried to distract you, to make you doubt what you've always believed to be true. But you cannot be confined. Your energy is a force they cannot control. Your vision, a map they could never understand. Now is the opportunity to become who you were always intended to be. Leave a comment below. I assert my power. If you refuse to be held back anymore. Their immediate reaction was one of doubt, skepticism. Their second, they exchanged disbelieving looks, murmured behind closed doors, and disregarded your observations as fantasies. But what? They failed to realize that foresight has never belonged to the majority. It is a gift for a select few. You are never mistaken, only ahead of your time. What seemed to be an affliction was really an anointing. The indications were present. The patterns are evident, but only you could comprehend them. Now, as the irrefutable unfolds before their eyes, those who mocked stand in the shadow of awareness. Every sneer and contemptuous smirk fades into quiet awareness. The world, which was previously blind to your vision, is now awakened. If anyone ever questioned your clarity, show them its indisputable force. Now, proclaim it in the comments. I was never mistaken, only enlightened. Your viewpoint was never flawed. It demonstrated that some people are just born with the ability to look beyond the commonplace. Labels of dismissal, derision, and rejection stuck to you like vines wrapped around every syllable. They had no idea what they were afraid of. They reduced it to gibberish, turning their ignorance with scorn. When you talked, the price of witnessing what others disregard in isolation chambers became quieter. Familiar faces became aloof, avoiding something they didn't comprehend. The loneliness was not just outward. It gnawed from within. There are whisperings of uncertainty, putting your will to the test. Should you shrink into their mold? Silence your thoughts. Dilute your truth to make it more pleasant. Or should you stand, even as rejection tightened its hold? To comply is to eliminate oneself, and you were never intended to blend into the throng. The weight was heavy. However, it was never without purpose. Against all doubts, insults, and moments of loneliness, something inside you refused to bend. Under the weight of rejection, and with rebellious assurance, a steady pulse of truth. It was unrelenting, cutting through the commotion and demanding to be heard. They might call you anything they liked, but they could never take your knowledge. And now the tide has turned. What was formerly disregarded is now undeniable. The weight of their judgment has shifted, and in its place is recognition. They used to laugh, but now they're listening. History has always rewarded those who remained steadfast against the wave of skepticism, those who refused to give up their truth. The world only understands visionaries when their time comes. That time is now. It will come to pass. Afterward, I will pour out my spirit on every flesh, and your sons and daughters will prophesy. Your elderly guys will dream dreams. Your young guys will see visions. Job 228. Just as dawn comes across the night sky, providing light where there was none, so does the truth emerge from the shadows of ignorance. There is a supernatural river that flows across time, a whisper passed from heart to heart, binding the selected in a tapestry of cosmic purpose. This old knowledge is not a remnant of bygone eras. It is a real, breathing tribute to individuals who are willing to gaze beyond the mundane and into the holy secrets that rule our planet. Beloved, comprehend this. What stirs inside you is more than just a glimmer of imagination. It is a flame lit by the skies themselves. The same spirit that talked to prophets and towns in the past, yet moved through Moses splitting the waters and David confronting Goliath, now moves through you. It's a call that is too strong for the weak of heart, a discovery that rocks the fundamental foundations of the earth. Those who are blinded by their doubts and worries are the first to scorn what they do not understand. They cling to the familiar, terrified by the brilliance of a new dawn that tests their comprehension. Remember, the greatest truths have always been rejected as foolishness. Before, they were regarded as wise. Galileo was mocked before the stars testified on his side. Noah was labeled a fool until the first raindrop fell. Your journey, dear one, is a holy road carved by forces invisible but strongly felt. The gods have arranged the music of your existence. Each note is a tribute to the power you possess inside you, and it serves as live evidence of a purpose larger than the sight or ear can see or hear. As you stand on the doorway of revelation, the question before you is not whether the world will believe, but whether you will courageously walk into the role you were created to play in the tides of destiny. I am never random. They are precisely led by the heavenly hand. The patterns that appear to you are not the ramblings of a restless mind, but the intentional marks of a cosmic map that has been in place since the beginning of existence. You are part of a divine continuum, a carefully crafted thread in the fabric of eternity. You're here for a purpose. If you sense a calling, this is your chance. Click the Super Thank You button and donate $15 or more to get deeper insights, unique material, and alignment with your divine mission. This is not only a gift, it is a statement. Step into your destiny right now. When the light of truth shines brightly, people who have sat contentedly in the darkness will squint and protect their eyes, unable to see what is before them. Even the most die-hard skeptic will eventually succumb to the irrefutable. The vision that has been put inside you is not a burden, but rather a gift. A candle illuminates the path for people lost in the fog of doubt. Allow the scoffers to grumble. Let the skeptics jeer. Their opposition serves as a sharpening stone, honing your resolve in the face of any insult. Every sneer and sidelong look just adds fuel to the fire that drives you ahead. The energy that is inside you is unwavering, a stronghold against the winds of doubt. As the seasons change and the planet evolves, previously concealed facts will spring to the surface, demanding attention. And when that day comes, you won't have to say a word of vindication. The manifestation of your vision in the world will speak louder than any witness. The earth under your feet will bear witness to your trip. You've traversed the valleys of loneliness, the heights of revelation, and the rivers of resistance crossed with unflinching trust. Accept this responsibility with grace and humility. The calling on your life is nothing short of holy. The legacy you are creating will live on in the hearts of people who awaken as a result of your light, rather than in stone. Let your spirit soar. Chosen one, may your presence be a light leading others from the desert of uncertainty into the promised land of truth. Every uncertainty put on you as tying you to an old power, attaching you to people who have carried this burden before. No step on this route has been taken alone. Unseen hands led you. Unseen voices have prepared you. So declare it. I bear the knowledge of eons. What is spoken to you has never used words. It is advocated for deliberateness and dismissal via indicators and patterns. You've felt it in the quiet urgings to explore the unknown, in the repetition of symbols woven across life, and in the assurance that something immense and unshakable has always been watching. Where others saw coincidence, you saw direction. Glimpses of what is to come were never just figments of the mind. They are indicators that something important is about to happen. Every idea, picture, and whisper that stays in the silent recesses of the mind is a thread in a larger pattern waiting to be unraveled. And just as doubt tried to creep in, Reality conspired to remind you of alignments too exact to be coincidence, and events too organized to be ignored. The jigsaw pieces of reality come together with unmistakable clarity. To understand this concealed language, however, one must do more than merely observe. It is to engage, to tune in to the beat underneath the surface. Every impulse, each moment of acknowledgement serves as a light, guiding you along your journey. The world is full with messages, some etched into the fabric of reality and others hidden in the subconscious, waiting to be discovered. It's no coincidence that you're seeing them. Understanding them is not a coincidence. There is a language that transcends words, and you've always been fluent. The weight of foresight is not easy to bear. Seeing the unfolding of events before they take form is both a rare luxury and an unshakable responsibility. The information remains, urging prudence, since not all ears are ready to hear what is next. Reality moves in calm ripples before the storm, and only a select few can see the patterns before they form. However, such clarity does not come without consequences. Knowing too much, too soon transforms stillness into a war. When to talk, when to hold back, when to let the world to learn on its own. Revelation is more than simply understanding. It is all about control. Wisdom becomes foolishness in the eyes of those who are not yet ready to absorb it. The invisible weight of knowing, of observing inevitabilities develop with no ability to change their fate, is a challenge few can bear. Patience is the genuine measure of those who look beyond. Endurance is required not just against outward unbelief, but also in the inward effort to be heard. Doubt is their weapon, aiming to erode the basis of certainty, to transform conviction into hesitancy. But what is truth? Without the stamina to carry it? This road was never intended for people seeking affirmation. It is for those who stand firm in the face of incredulity. Every dismissive, sneer, and effort to discredit the message is just another layer of armor being built. The flames of suspicion do not devour it. In the end, time will remove all uncertainty, and those who once ridiculed will find themselves standing in the aftermath of indisputable truth. Declare it immediately. My strength remains unshaken. It starts with whispers, with facts so little that only the most sensitive can understand their importance. Subtle changes and brief moments are unnoticeable to the untrained sight, but crystal evident to those who comprehend the language of the unseen. The same voices who formerly mocked the impossible, as well as the brains that reject it with confidence, now pause. Their skepticism loses its unshakable certainty. As one by one, the unthinkable becomes tangible. What was previously dismissed as chance now plagues their rationale, pushing them to face the truth they so eagerly avoided. A single fracture in their unbelief grows or stretches, becoming irreparable. And as the evidence accumulates, their silence gets louder. The tables turn in the absence of noise rather than with it. What they previously rejected, they now dread, knowing that the one who has always seen them has already gone on, unaffected, watching the inevitable unfold as it always has. A change has happened. You are no longer disregarded, ignored in the midst of uncertainty. Something has changed, not in your nature, but in how the world now perceives you. Those who previously sneered now hesitate. Their confidence was crumbling before their eyes. However, this transition is not characterized by your desire for their approval. It is characterized by the peaceful awareness that you didn't need it at all. The time of reckoning is not loud, nor does it need a spectacular statement. Instead, it comes in the silence of realization. They recognize that truth has never needed permission to exist. The dismissive murmurs have disappeared, leaving behind a quiet that tells volumes. And in that stillness, power is regained not from them, but from the illusions they attempted to create around you. Their skepticism no longer weighs on your confidence. It is unfettered, unbounded, and absolute. There is no need to look back or seek acknowledgement. Those who previously laughed now move uneasily in the midst of something they can't deny. However, proving them incorrect was never the aim. The knowledge that silent suffering is just a result of the unavoidable. What important is the way ahead, the purpose that remains unshaken despite their first doubts. Some will approach, seeking wisdom they previously disregarded. Others will claim they have no doubts at all. They clung to the vestiges of their previous beliefs. However, none of this alters the fact. Their acknowledgement was never the affirmation you desired. The acceptance of those who are too terrified to see has never determined our purpose. The world may change, but you stay stable. What was once an uphill fight has now become a solid foundation. There's nothing left to prove. There are only steps left to take. Without hesitation, the trip continues. Not to avoid being seen or recognized, but because the vocation still carries the weight of loneliness. Those long evenings of pondering, the times when doubt attempted to whisper, "It's poisonous." All of this has just fueled the fire that is inside. What runs through you is not a transient inspiration. It is something old, something that cannot be expressed in words. It is an unbreakable bond to invisible powers, yet true strength is discovered not in the absence of fear, but in the decision to step ahead. Despite this, you go on, not seeking approval, but doing what was always intended. The presence that stays when you walk into a room, followed by the silence that comes with speaking. It's not arrogance or a wish to be respected. It is the calm confidence of someone who knows. Many are called, but only a few are chosen. Matthew 2214. When the blacksmith heats iron, he does it to strengthen it rather than destroy it. The fires that others flee are the same forces creating you, polishing you, and transforming you into something unbreakable. Gold is not extracted from the earth in its final state. It is extracted from the earth, cleansed with fire, and hammered into something of tremendous value. And just like that, your challenges have come not to bury you, but to unveil the strength that has always been inside. This endeavor was never about achieving celebrity or notoriety. It was never intended to instill pride or please the ego. A call on your life is larger than any one individual, bigger than applause, greater than affirmation from those who do not comprehend. Some people spend their lives seeking acceptance, but those who are selected recognize that approval is ephemeral. But purpose is everlasting. You are never supposed to ask permission for something that has already been written in the stars. The burden of knowledge is heavy, but only those who are strong enough to bear it are trusted with it. This wisdom, this understanding, this fire that burns inside you was never intended to be shut up. It flows through you like a river, calling out to others who are still wandering in the desert of doubt and feeling lost in the distractions of the world. And this knowledge brings calm, not because the trip is simple, but because the way is plain. You know, those who are called to something bigger do not have an easy route. They have been tested. They are pushed on all sides. They are mocked, misunderstood, and dismissed. But here's this. These tests are not penalties. They are preparing. The difficulties, the resistance, the periods of solitude, they've been chiseling away at everything else, polishing you until only the indisputable remains. The world may attempt to silence or discard you. You may attempt to persuade yourself that you are mistaken. However, this is solely due to their fear of what they cannot control. Make no mistake, the world has always sought to suppress people who see beyond the curtain. Until the deluge, Noah was ridiculed for building the Arkansas. When Joseph spoke his dreams, his own brothers sold him into slavery. Until their wishes come true, the ones selected to lead are the first to be broken, as history has shown. But here is the reality. They don't want you to realize that breaking is where power emerges. When the world attempts to snuff out your fire, let it burn even hotter. When they laugh, they stand higher. When they reject you, remember that they did the same to every prophet, visionary, and soul who ever dared to live in the fullness of their destiny. They don't dismiss you because you're incorrect. They reject you because you are in front of them. And in time, they will realize what you have always known. Don't back down. Don't allow their doubts become yours. Do not let their fear bind you to a life of smallness. When you were born for something bigger, This route was never intended to be simple. But you were not supposed to be ordinary. You're not here to blend in. You are here to succeed. The battle wasn't useless. It was the catalyst. Resistance did not halt development. It accelerated it. Each struggle served as a learning experience. Every denial of the inevitable did not extinguish the fires of hardship. They demonstrated that each moment of uncertainty, struggle, and alone was not a setback, but rather a metamorphosis in progress. The wounds caused by others' unbelief have long ago healed, leaving only the callous strength of one who has sustained the weight that was once considered a burden, but is now acknowledged as the foundation upon which everything rests. What was supposed to break has instead been constructed. The teachings were never intended to prove anything to those who questioned. They were about developing one's own inner strength and perseverance. There is nothing more to regain from the past. There are no apologies to seek or excuses to provide. The route ahead is plain, and it only goes in one direction, toward purpose, destiny, and the truth that was always intended to be realized. Arise, shine, for thy light has arrived, and the Lord's brightness has risen upon. Isaiah 61. A flame does not seek permission to blaze. It just does. And as it expands, it alters everything in its path. What began as a whisper in your spirit is now an unmistakable power, a fire that will not be quenched. Those who previously turned away now pause, their doubts cracking like dry ground under the weight of reality. They can no longer deny what is before them. You never required their approval or permission. The vision put inside you was not intended for the faint of heart, nor for those who need approval before moving forward. No, this was intended for those who went by faith, not sight. The ones who remain steadfast, even when everyone laughs at them. Those who refuse to allow the blind sneers stop them from speaking what they understand to be true. And now look at how the same individuals who mocked you before are paying closer attention this time. They are no longer ridiculing as much as they formerly did. They aren't laughing as loudly because they can sense something moving deep inside themselves. A silent, creeping understanding. A query. They are terrified to speak. What if they were correct? At first, they refuse to say it. Instead, they will pose cautious, even reluctant queries. They'll behave as if they're just inquisitive, as if they haven't been ignoring what you've been saying for years. But their expressions betray them. Their energy has altered. The assurance they previously had is crumbling, replaced by something new, which they don't entirely comprehend. But here's this. You are not here to persuade them. You're not here to urge them to see what they've refused to admit. The truth does not have to be defended. The sun does not dispute with people who reject its light. It just increases. And so will you. Some will oppose it. Some will claim they never questioned you at all. Others will sit silently, watching and waiting, uncertain of what to say. Despite this, nothing alters the course of events. However, this unfolding was not intended to be limited to a particular time or a small group of people. A change of this size does not end. It spreads to others who have yet to ask questions, pulling them towards something bigger than themselves. The weight of rejection, which previously threatened to isolate, has changed into a bridge, connecting one waking to the next. This route was never intended to be taken alone, and others are now taking steps ahead, attracted by the same pull that once only you felt. However, with this growth comes responsibilities. Those who formerly looked away now look to you for advice in areas where they previously perceived folly. They will seek clarity, guidance, and comfort that they are not walking into the unknown alone. And in this knowledge, the burden of loneliness is lifted, not because the weight has been reduced, but because it has been shared. This endeavor was never about becoming noticed. It was about taking the truth through a storm and coming out unscathed. The ripples have turned into waves, and what was once rejected as the ramblings of a single voice now rings true in the hearts of millions. The world is no longer turning away. It listens. However, this is a threshold rather than a culmination. The job is not completed. Truth requires guardianship, and those who bear it must do so with steadfast clarity. There is no room for doubt, no need for validation. The time for hiding, doubting, and asking permission to live in this knowledge is long gone. What formerly seemed like an uphill fight has now shown itself as preparation for what is to come. And with each stride forward, the purpose becomes more firm, undeniable, unstoppable, and etched in the fabric of time itself. Carrying this information is not without its challenges, for there will always be forces attempting to distort, dilute, or obfuscate the truth. To be a knowledge keeper is to realize that not everyone is ready to hear or comprehend. The skill of judgment is as important as the message itself. The rhythm of destiny does not yield to hurry because it knows when to unveil, when to withhold, and when to let time speak for itself. It unfolds with care, aligning itself only when the time is right. This is not a conclusion, but rather an introduction into something deeper. The waves of change are unrelenting, and each discovery is just a peek into a far larger unfolding. What was formerly dismissed as mere conjecture is hardening into incontrovertible truth, and the function that was previously hidden in the shadows is finally coming to light. No longer a passive observer of fate's currents, but a tool influencing it, altering perception and constructing the route that others will ultimately follow. Standing at the threshold of metamorphosis, the previous identity evaporates. No more the misunderstood, the disregarded, or the lone voice speaking out against the flow. A new position is assumed, the custodian of information, the sentinel of a truth too large to contain. What was previously improbable is now an inevitable certainty. The world will understand what the few have always known. The visions predicted were never faked, and the warnings were never unjustified. The road ahead does not seek affirmation because it no longer needs it. The future is no longer in debate. It is an unavoidable situation,